Welcome to the Happy Homeschooler Podcast, a digital support group for everyone interested in a learning lifestyle. I'm your host, Holly.
I'm your co-host, Melody.
Today we're going to be discussing taking a winter break, when you might want to do it, and what you might want to do during that break. But first, let's see what's happening with Melody today.
Oh, well, since the last time we got together, we had some chilly weather. So we've been outside a lot getting things ready for when it really gets cold. That was just a little hint or a reminder that at some point it's not going to be 100 degrees outside.
Well, in Texas, anything lower than 100 is pretty cool.
So it was nice to spend more time outside and just, transplant things that had grown out of their pots and look at the garden. And my tomatoes got excited. When the weather got cooler, we've got a whole huge crop of little cherry tomatoes.
Oh, I'm jealous. I let my garden go and it's all shriveled and really spooky looking.
Well, the tomatoes are the only thing that look good in our garden. Some of the other things, our hackberry tree is doing that weird drip of sappy, I don't know what it's doing, but some of the plants have got all the weird little black crust over them. They don't look very happy. But the tomatoes aren't under a tree, so they're doing good.
Well, that's good.
What have y'all been doing with your spooky garden?
Oh, well, nothing at all. Just trying to avoid it. This past week, of course, we've all been dealing with the time change. And so I'm having a hard time remembering to go outside for our evening walking that we do. We had been going to the park, but now all of a sudden I'll look up and I'll say, oh my goodness. And so we're just running out and doing walking around the yard.
That's good.
Only my son, being that he's 8 years old, doesn't find just walking a good enough activity. Mm. And so I have to pretend to be a monster that eats him, or I have to be a zombie, or I have to do all sorts of things that really interfere with my steps. But he's outside and he's being happy. And as you said, the cooler weather actually allowed us to go outside and do some of our read alouds outside.
Oh, that's so nice.
Mm-hmm. Because as Charlotte Mason said, you should never be indoors when you can rightly be outdoors. I'm trying to take that to heart. And we did have a lovely school day that day.
That's so nice. It's been a while since I've taken anything outside to read. I'm going to have to remember to do that. But I look up and it's getting dark outside.
Yes.
And then it feels so late. Yeah. I'm not a fan.
Well, I grew up in it, so I just figure that's how it is. But I have friends in other states that don't do it. And they like to brag a lot at this time of the year. Well, anyway, talking about this time of the year, we are going to be talking about what to do when we take a break. School's been going on for months now for some people. We're about to start our 12th week of school next week. So, of course, break is on my mind, and I know some people are all in that same mindset. So I thought it would be a good idea if we talk about that whole thing. When do you take a break? How long should you take a break? What do you do during the break? Yeah. So, Melody, when you were homeschooling, what did you do about breaks?
About breaks? Well, in the beginning, when I only had a few little ones, we just kept on going. We kind of followed, all of our neighbors were in public school, and we sort of followed that same calendar. They would be at our house, or we'd be there. So, it made sense, the playmates. And so we just kept on going up till about 2 weeks before Christmas. And that worked well because little ones thrive with a routine. And I could still get a lot of extra things done because the day was just, tracking along, keeping things going. And we also did not have a lot of outside activities at that point because they weren't members of this and that organization or club.
Right.
So as they got older, we had more things to do in addition to like family gatherings and church gatherings. There were youth gatherings and co-op gatherings and all the other things. And that's when we began to take some time off from schooling. A lot of reading kept going and a lot of times math, but we would switch gears for science and history and just do the other, community-based things and Christmas things. And
the calendar gets very full in December. Everyone seems to want to have a party. And as you said,
goodness.
If you're part of several organizations, all of a sudden you've got cookie exchanges, and you've got white elephant gift exchanges and little parties. And before you know it, you're wondering how you're going to get anything done except going to all these gatherings.
Every weekend is full, and you've got things to do during the week to get ready for the weekend, and it got really crowded. So that's when we began to step back and take a little bit school, light
Mm-hmm.
in December. What do you do?
Well, so when I started homeschooling, I had 4 kids, ages 2nd grade and under, and I was pregnant. And so I was pretty overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And when December was looming ahead, I started to feel kind of panicky. And I thought to myself, what if I take off the whole month? And that was kind of a scary thought, take off the whole month. But that's what I did. I did that for actually quite a number of years. I called it Christmas school. Some people might call it winter school, whatever. But what I decided was there were enough activities that we were going to do to get ready for all of our holiday celebrations that we could count them as educational activities. So the measuring, the planning of all the baked goods was part of our math. The writing of Christmas cards was part of our penmanship program and part of our grammar. If you were going to write a little sentence or two.
We wrote little letters.
Write little letters.
Mm-hmm.
Doing community service things like going to wrap gifts for Blue Santa or doing food bank things. Those I lumped in as our citizenship activities. And so we just focused on those things. We went to musical events, concerts. So there was our fine arts.
Right.
We read a lot. I have an extensive collection of Christmas books.
Oh,
so we read all these books, and I read some, and the children read some aloud. So I felt like even though we weren't following our curriculum for that 1 month period, it enabled me to get ready for the holidays in a way that I could help the whole family participate. It didn't just fall on me to write all the cards or to do all the baking or whatever. And then we were able to enjoy getting into some activities that I would have had to say no to if we had just, lockstep followed our curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
Once my kids got a little older, we didn't do that quite the same. It works better, I think, to take that time off. Like you said, it was working better for you to stick to a schedule. It worked better for me to just get rid of that schedule and just throw ourselves into all the holiday activities. But it depends on the tenor of your family.
It does.
And
how many activities you have going on, and things like whether or not your family is local or distant. Do you have to travel? Some people need to travel.
Right.
And so what are your holiday plans? And then, sometimes we took off some time for Thanksgiving, and then we'd do a little bit more school, and then we'd take off again.
Mm-hmm.
We were pretty flexible. We just did what worked for us for that year, every year.
Right.
But it was always nice to have that option in the back of our mind. And then we also used it as a time to study like the history of the different traditions that we like to follow in our house. And we would learn the history behind it. So I felt like we could incorporate educational activities even if it wasn't in the curriculum.
Right. And I think it's important to take breaks. There's a homeschool family. Oh my goodness, I can't remember their name. I read about them years ago, and they never took off. So, and interestingly enough, their kids graduated high school by like the age of 12 or 13.
Yeah.
And they began college, shortly thereafter. By the time those kids were 18, some of them had a master's degree. And I found that admirable, except that I just knew that wasn't going to work for my family, that we really needed some breaks just to give our brains time to rest and refresh. And then when we started back up again, we had more energy. So we're not saying you have to take a break, but we're saying evaluate, right? And see what you think your family needs. Maybe you don't need to take a long break. Maybe you want to take at the end of your 12 weeks of school or your 9 weeks of school, take a week off, and then maybe take a little time off at Thanksgiving, then maybe take a little time off at Christmas time or whatever holidays you're celebrating at the end of the year. If you're celebrating Hanukkah, or if you just want to take a break in the winter because you've been going on for so many weeks of school. It's important to take breaks.
It is. And you can also take those breaks around what works best for your family. There's no rule that says you have to be through with your school by May 31st. If you need to go into June or July,
right,
that works just fine. And I have a friend who the bulk of her work is seasonal during Thanksgiving and Christmas or the end of the year. So that's kind of their break. And then they take off, those 2 months and start in January or February and go through the summer, which really works well here because it's so hot.
It is so hot in Texas in the summer.
We keep saying that, but it really is so hot. You can't really spend as much time outside, and it's more pleasant at this time of the year to be outside. And so they just arrange their schedule to suit their needs.
Right. And that's an important point. So when you get out of public school and you start to homeschool, it takes a while to get your brain out of that public school thinking of schools from September to May, and you do this thing this time and this thing at that time. And once you get out of that thinking, it's very freeing, particularly if you're in a state like ours where you're not regulated to certain days or certain number of hours. But even if you are in a heavily regulated state, there are ways to work in your breaks and still satisfy the requirements that you're under. It's going to take a little more creativity, but you can do it.
You sure can. It just takes realizing that all of the children are learning all the time, and learning that's not coming out of a book is still learning and still valuable. And sometimes for some children, it's more valuable. It works better for them for recall and for
that
really
goes
learning.
Back to the learning styles that we were talking about, is that some people don't learn as much when they're reading. Like my son, he really learns a lot from videos. I'm trying to help him to learn more from reading and from having other sources of information. But sometimes I'll read something to him and I'll say, what was that we just read? And he'll say, I don't know. And I'll say, well, how is it that you know this thing you watched for 2 minutes on that video so well? But that's the way he takes in information. Ironically, we're using a method of education that doesn't use a lot of videos because it's Charlotte Mason. But when you get older, you're going to have to read a lot for information. So this is an exercise for his brain, just like going outside would be an exercise for his body, for him to have to attend to some reading. But yeah, depending on the way you learn, or depending on the way your kids learn, they might be learning a lot more than you realize outside of your curriculum.
Oh, sure. It's always fun when they come up and tell you something that you didn't teach them. Like, where did you learn that? And then, I read about it in a book, or I looked it up or something. So learning's happening all the time. You can guide it and direct it, and
that's true.
Do things to make it more.
Yeah, just because you take off for a break doesn't mean it's a free-for-all. Unless you want it to be.
It could be.
But yeah, I had a plan during our winter breaks of what we were going to do. We did a lot of crafts and handmade gifts. So we had to plan, if we were going to make, we did little decaled soaps. Okay, how many soaps are we going to give to which people? Now we had to go find, the materials. How many materials do we need? So it took a lot of planning, and it took a lot of mathematical reasoning. And so I really think those are real world skills we all need. I mean, it is good if you can do, quadratic equations, but really knowing how to double a recipe or how to plan how much food to make for a gathering, those are some skills you're going to use your whole life long.
That's right. How to plan the grocery list, how to budget for it. There's a lot of math skills that are coming out of that.
A lot of math skills.
So did you sit down at the beginning or like before Thanksgiving or before December and make a master list of things you wanted to do, or did you just roll with the punches?
No, I actually did. Because so many things are already scheduled. If there are holiday concerts, or there are cookie baking or gingerbread house baking parties or whatever, I sat down and put those on my calendar.
Okay. So
I could plan for us to go to them. And then, we had a list of people to whom we wanted to give gifts. And so, we have a very large family. My husband's the oldest of 6. I'm the oldest of 4. We have 6 children. There are a lot of gift giving. And so you can't just fly by the seat of your pants on that. And so, I would plan ahead. And during the whole year, I kept kind of a little notebook of cool gift ideas I would see. I'd print out things, recipes I wanted to try, charitable things I wanted to participate in. Like in our area, a big thing is the Children Giving to Children parade. And so I would always plan for that That was like, I think it's the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Who knows if it will be this year? But you would go to it and take gifts to put on the floats, and those gifts would be given to disadvantaged children through the Blue Santa Christmas. So you have to plan ahead. At least I did. I had to plan ahead. And yeah, so by the time
just a different kind of planning.
Yes. So yeah, by the time December started, I had a pretty good idea of what we were going to do. What about you? How did you approach your holiday breaks?
Well, basically the same, just depending on what we were doing that year. But there was always a big list making, and we would just have a big powwow and talk about what do we want to do. Did they have ideas for gifts they wanted to make for people? And the same thing. We had collected a folder of ideas, things that they could do that were useful and not just busy work.
Yes. Oh, please do not give your kids just busy work. Macaroni necklaces.
Right. And a macaroni necklace is fine for building fine motor skills, but you want to give people gifts that they can use and appreciate. And I wore my share of macaroni necklaces around the house. But not usually.
Yes, I wore some, and some very creative earrings as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But I liked your idea. I like the decaled soaps, and we did a lot of baking, and then some years we did cookies in a jar. Where you
the
give
little
the
mixes. Yeah.
Lots of measuring, lots of fractions, and
that's another good thing, is helping your kids develop the skills of evaluating what goes into a good gift.
Good point.
What's a good gift to give and receive? Because even kids have had their share of gifts where they think, does this person even know me?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, using your holiday break to enrich your lives and build real life skills and use the skills you've already learned, reinforce those skills, that is really well worth taking a break from your regular curriculum. You'll find out quickly how much your kids actually have learned.
True.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see a gap when you're doing some real life application of the things you've been learning in your lessons, and then when you get back to regular school to zero in on those things.
Yeah, because sometimes kids are really good at putting the information on paper, but they're not really good at applying it.
Right, like capital letters. What? On my letters, I have to use capital letters? Yeah.
Right, or not putting them at the beginning of every word in a sentence just because you like those letters. My husband throws capitals in willy-nilly when he's writing. I think that has to do with his dyslexia, and I find it really amusing.
Or A.A. Milne and Christopher Robin has a lot of
this is true.
Winnie the Pooh.
Well, that's how children
letters.
Right, that's how children write. We're going to take a short break to hear a word from our sponsor. When we come back, we'll talk about how winter break is different this year.
Our podcast today is sponsored by Transcript Maker. It's an online service that allows you to create professional high school transcripts in the comfort of your own home. We've got some really exciting news to share. Holly, why don't you tell everyone?
Yes, we do. Transcript Maker is now part of the Homeschool Connect Expo.
Okay, and if someone doesn't know what an expo is, how would you explain that to them?
Well, the Homeschool Connect Expo is a virtual homeschool convention. So instead of having to drive somewhere and go into an exhibit hall and spend a whole day, you just get to go to this convention from the comfort of your own home, and it's free to register.
Well, I think that's perfect for right now because all of those conventions are not happening. So that is really good. How do they find it?
The Homeschool Connect Expo is at homeschoolconnectexpo.com. Just go right there and then you register and you start to browse. There are all kinds of exhibitors. Transcript Maker is one. And you can see, you can listen to speakers, you can explore all different curriculums, you can sign up for giveaways. It'll be really fun for people to be able to do that.
I have to check that out myself. So what if someone catches this podcast late? Will they miss?
Oh no, this is the other nice thing, because normally a convention, is a couple days. This is going to be ongoing for the next year.
Is that a change in response to everyone having to change all their plans
Yes,
this year?
It is. The Homeschool Connect Expo used to just be held 6 times a year for certain periods of time, but now they're going to just keep it up for the whole year.
Oh, I love that.
I do too. How creative of a solution.
A good way to serve the homeschool community. So, what is Transcript Maker going to be having at the booth there?
Well, we have a virtual booth, and we will be showing you how to use Transcript Maker. We'll be sharing different ideas and things about what to put on your transcript. And you're going to want to go to our booth because we're also going to have a discount code that you can use on your subscription if you're not a subscriber yet.
That is awesome. So get your 14-day free trial at www.transcriptmaker.com.
And visit us at the Homeschool Connect Expo.
Transcript Maker, simply better transcripts.
Okay, well, let's talk about how we're going to do winter break in light of all the restrictions and differences we're encountering this year because of this pandemic.
I think people are finding ways to be more creative about how they might be able to give to people if they can't be attending something in person. I think that most of those donation drives are still easy to incorporate into your plans because you just go and drop things off.
True, that's true. Or you can give monetary donations.
Right.
A lot of organizations I know appreciate the monetary donations because they have ways to multiply that money. You know, like if you just go and give some canned goods, that's really wonderful for your food bank. But sometimes if you give them cash, they have special discounts that they can use, and so that $1 can give them $10 of purchasing
that's
power.
A really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Really good point. What other ideas do you have?
Well, here's something that I've done with my kids for a number of years, and you can still do it. I like some organizations like World Vision and Heifer International, where you can give a donation to help people who are overseas. Last year, my son and I gave a donation, and we bought soccer balls for kids in Africa. So I also like to tie my charitable giving to things that my kids can relate to. Mm-hmm. My son loves to kick a soccer ball around. And when I told him that some kids have to take rags and tie them together around rocks because they are in an area where they just don't have resources to get soccer balls, he wanted to buy soccer balls. So tying your charitable things that you do with your kids for the holidays and throughout the year, tying it to something that relates to them is a really good way to get them involved.
That's a great idea.
And you can just, we got a little catalog that came in the mail. We're going to go through the catalog, and there's lots and lots of fun and helpful things that you can do, big donations and little donations. You can even buy part of a yurt for people in Mongolia.
Can help dig a well.
There are all kinds of things that you can do. And I know my family, we don't need a lot of things.
Same here.
We just
always
don't
looking
need a lot
for
of things.
Things that you can, gifts of time or other ways to give that doesn't result in having to find a place for some other thing. Right,
and give things in people's names. So that's another nice thing you can do. There are a lot of online concerts and things that you can attend from home. So I already have a couple of them on my calendar, different types of concerts that my son and I can watch. We have in the past gone to some live concerts. Mm-hmm. We have a lovely orchestra here called the Starlight Symphony that we would go and attend their performances in person, but they're not having them right now. So we're going to look for some of those kinds of things that we can do from home. And then there are outdoor activities that, depending on where you live, may or may not be available. We have a walking trail near us that they decorate for the holidays with Christmas lights and things. Each it's like a benefit for the food bank, and each company or entity that wants a booth there, they decorate it, and then I guess they pay money to do that, and then you can walk through and see it. So, just it's going to take some creativity. But I think there are plenty of ways we can still enjoy this time of the year and taking a break from our curriculum and, just to be creative. We could probably still participate in a lot of the things we normally do, just in different ways.
I think so. I've seen some groups having some Zoom parties where everybody gets together and they're still either singing Christmas carols together. I mean, they aren't doing this yet. They're talking about it.
Right.
But they've been making some plans about, hey, what if we all get together and sing together over Zoom? And it's like, that would be fun.
I just did an online painting class that same way. So you know how people do the sip and paint things? So we did that with, we all got our little paint sets. And then we zoomed in and we watched the video and we painted and we chatted. It was so much fun.
It's just a different kind of fun.
Just a different kind of fun.
But there's still going to be some things we can do, especially outdoor activities. We have a similar walk and talk and kind of thing that goes on in our town. And I've seen there are always areas where you can drive through. We used to like to drive around and look at the lights.
There are more of those drive-through
So
things.
I expect this year some of those may be even more spectacular.
Well, some people have already started putting up their holiday decorations. I'm not quite ready for that. I just took down my Halloween. I just took down my Halloween ones. But you know what? I think it's really wonderful if people find that that's a great outlet for the stress that they've been experiencing to start decorating now. I'm all about it. I can't wait to go see what everybody's done. Because, we always love to go light looking.
We always had one afternoon. Sometimes it was after a gathering. We would drive the long way home just so we could go see all of the lights. And then there's a street nearby that every single home on the street gets in together, and they have lights going across the street.
Oh my gosh, I love when neighborhoods coordinate like that.
It's quite lit up and really fun just to go drive around and look at that. What other kind of things do you think might be available?
Well, that is a good question. I think drive-through things there are going to be a lot more of those, and I think that we can all also find things to do that maybe we haven't done before. Maybe go take a hike. Go take a holiday hike and look for the different nature things that are changing, different birds that are in the area. Maybe, pick a couple of places where you can concentrate your donation efforts. We have very close to us a no-kill animal shelter, and we usually take things to them for the holidays. Try to find things where maybe there are areas that are underserved that could use donations, and even volunteer. Maybe you can do some mail sorting, or just look for
Our local food bank always needs volunteers.
Yeah.
So that's open certain times of the week. You just have to sign up to get to go.
Right. And I do know that a lot of those places have precautions in place, for you to volunteer in a socially distant way, keep everybody safe. So I think, again, it's just going to be a combination of online things.
It's also a good time for people to do those things that you always think you don't have time to do, that you maybe wish you had time to do. Everyone has a little more time at home now since so many things are closed. And so we did things like, movie night and watch the Christmas movies or the holiday movies, and take the time to sit down and do that with your family, and have a gift wrap night, or have a, make tags or make cards, or
make your own
things.
wrapping paper.
Yes, that's always a fun. We did that several times, and that was always interesting. Interesting paper. But there are ways you can spend your time at home and create good memories about the holidays.
True enough. Also, I'm really excited about this. Hot chocolate bombs.
Have you seen hot chocolate bomb?
Okay, so this is a big thing.
I've got to know about that.
People are selling them. So you just look online for hot chocolate bomb recipes, and you have to get a silicone mold that makes 2 halves of a circle.
Okay.
So anyway, you get the chocolate, you melt it, you paint it in the little mold, and then inside of it you put hot cocoa mix and marshmallows and stuff like that. And then, once you pop the sides out, then you put the stuff in, and then you put them together, with, you warm them and you kind of glue them together with the chocolate. And then you can put little decorations on the top, little drizzle of icing or whatever. Anyway, then you have your hot milk, whatever kind of milk you drink. I drink almond milk. And anyway, you put the bomb in the cup,
in your mug,
and you pour the hot milk over it, and it explodes open, and it makes a hot cup of hot cocoa. How exciting. I
got to try this.
Like, I used to make the chocolate covered spoons. But yeah, taking time to make these fun things that are different, that will make your holidays special. Whatever your holiday traditions are, that just find some things that maybe you haven't done before and do those, so that instead of this holiday being like, well, we couldn't go see Grandma, the holiday is like, wow, we had an amazing holiday time.
And it's a good time to take the time to reach out to the people that you haven't seen in a while. And the people who might be lonely or not have family nearby, and take time to think about others.
Right. I think so. I think it'll be a really good holiday season. If we put some thought into it now, we'll be ready to have a really good holiday season.
At this time in our podcast, we tackle the big questions that we see in online homeschool support groups. What is our question this week?
Well, people, been in school for a while, and a lot of them, this is their first year, and they were used to the public school doing testing. So people are asking about if their kids need to take standardized tests, or should their kids take standardized tests.
And how to and where to.
Right, right.
They are available. There is probably a standardized test available in every state or wherever you live. I didn't do standardized tests with my kiddos, but there was always the option. And so if people just really want to have a good barometer of where their children are in their progress, it's not a bad idea to take the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, which is just a basic, measure of what your child has learned at this point in comparison with other children that age.
I actually had my 2 oldest children tested when they were in 3rd and 5th grade because I was really insecure about what they were learning. And I was very happy at the results. It showed me exactly where they were on their math and reading, what I had thought, that their skills, where their skill level was. But the thing I loved, and we've talked about this, is that kids are learning all the time. And it showed that they had learned things I had never taught them. Now, I never tested any of my kids after that. That little experience kind of just gave me a real confidence in what I was doing. And it gave me a little peace of mind that they were learning, and that if we just kept on, that everything would turn out all right. And since 5 of them are now adults, and some of them have gone to college, and they're working, I feel like, we did do really a good job, and they had a good education. And so, yes, if you feel a little worried about where your kids are, I would explore taking a test. Sometimes private schools will allow homeschoolers to come in and test.
That's true.
You can order the tests and give them to your kids at home. And depending on what state you're homeschooling in, you might be required to have your child tested. Some states do have that requirement. We don't have that requirement here in Texas.
No, but you want to know if it's a requirement, and the local groups will be able to point you to the right resources.
That's right. But you're going to find out some good stuff about what you've been doing. And so I think for that purpose, having your kids tested at least once in their homeschool career is probably a good experience.
Especially if it gives you peace of mind and confidence to keep going.
Yeah. Well, what parent doesn't need that comfort and peace of mind? And that's what we hope to bring to you every time. So thank you for joining us today. I'm Holly.
I'm Melody.
Happy homeschooling. Hi, this is your host, Holly Williams Urbach. Thank you for listening to the Happy Homeschooler Podcast, a Transcript Maker Production. My co-host is Melody Gillum. This episode was produced by Matthew Bass and edited by Norah Williams. Our graphic design is by Pete Soloway, and our music is by the Great Pangolin. You can find her music on YouTube and Twitter at Kylie Wins. That's Kailey Wins. If you'd like to help our podcast grow, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or as always, tell people about us. Online things and a combination of, I don't know. I've lost my thought.